Welcome in Upstate. It is a second edition of Straight Up with Sturg and the Bostic brothers. My good friend Joe Bostic back. And Joe, how are we doing? For our listeners that don't know, congratulations, as you became back in April one of the newest members of the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame. It was awesome to see you get that. It was awesome to see Jeff. I mean, one year it's your little brother Jeff. The next year it's you. So we have the Bostic family covered in the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame.
I thought I was going to be the main presenter of Hall of Fame guys because I had done Jeff, Steve Fuller, Dwight Clark. So I said my fate would be the presenter of all Clemson greats to the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame. But it was really a great honor and a great event, and saw some old friends and some guys I'd cussed out a little bit and traded a little helmet paint with, and but we're all good buddies now, and not no fight, and I guess we don't even have energy for that. But
well, that's what's so funny. People don't realize how good of friends that football, basketball players are off the field, but when you get in there, eyes roll up like a great white shark, and you get ready to play, and unfortunately, didn't happen Monday night in Durham for the Clemson Tigers.
Well, that was a bad one. That was, that was one of the worst performances I've seen. You're thinking back, we've lost 3 out of the last 4 games we played. We played 2 unranked teams and lost to them. We got to get this thing turned around. Something's just not going on right.
It's real easy for me as a member of the media to sit back and go, I think this, I think that. The bandwagon Clemson fan got upset this past weekend. They're the ones that jumped on with the national championships. But, they don't realize how hard these guys, they worked for a month. They didn't want to go out there and have that happen. It happened, but now I think is the answer. What do you see? Granted, it's a short turnaround from playing Monday night. They probably got back, 2 in the morning on Tuesday.
Probably.
But they need to go out there, have fun, and play with emotion. I didn't think it looked like they were having fun, and I didn't think it looked like they were playing with much emotion. It kind of felt like an old Virginia Tech Thursday night game back in the day when it was Sean Glennon, I think, was the quarterback. And Teresa and I were staying at the hotel with the team, and they were already there at 4 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon at the hotel at the Roanoke Airport. Right. And they sat around that hotel for 24, 26 hours. And they were bored as all get out by the time they got on those buses to go. That kind of felt reminiscent of what happened Monday night up in Durham.
Yeah, I almost an unexpected. I've never seen a game like that. Dabo made the reference to the 200-yard rushing, the 200-yard passing, and Clemson's done that, I guess, 109 times in the history of since whatever the first year they playing ball, and we were 108-0. Now we're 108-1. Mm-hmm. So it was an oddball game. It looked like a game to me that, and even the guys at halftime, the guys were Dan Mullen, some other fellow. They were like, who you think's going to win the game because it was 7-6. Clemson will stumble around a little bit, but they'll end up taking control of the game, and that's what it looked like the whole time with me. Was Clemson guys were waiting for somebody to really make a big play, and no big play came, and then we made those just horrific mistakes. Jump offside on the 1-yard line. We fumble inside the 5. We fumble at the 1. We missed a field goal. We missed 2 field goals. It was just it all happened right there in that little red zone area, and it was bad.
Well, one of the things I know Dabo preached all during August camp was finish it. And that's one thing that this football team is not doing. If you go back to the Tennessee and Duke games, Joe, Clemson has had the ball 16 times inside the opponent's 40-yard line, and they've scored 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's not finishing off drives. And, again, left a lot of points there in the red zone on Monday night. And, one bad tackle, and all of a sudden Riley Leonard's 50 yards in for a touchdown, and that just seemed – to change things, and then it sort of snowballed.
And even that play, Barrett,
Barrett Carter.
Yeah, Barrett Carter had him, and the rest of the defense looked like just kind of relaxed. And then, bam, he makes a little spin move, and he's out of the tackle, and he's gone down the sideline for a touchdown. You got to keep pursuing the runner until he is down. I mean, I don't care if
you hear the whistle.
Yeah, I don't care if it's your best tackler on your whole team. You think, oh, he'll get him, and I can relax a little bit. You got to go. I mean, the offense did not look good. The defense, to me, this looks very mediocre. I'm hearing about all these great linebackers, maybe the best linebacker crew in all the nation, all this great defensive line. I just didn't see it. And, and part of it, I think, with Clemson fans and the fault that I have is that back in the day when we used to play Duke and Wake Forest, it was Duke and Wake Forest.
Right.
And we were going to beat those guys. It didn't matter who it was, what it was, who was coaching over there, who was playing. It didn't matter that we were going to win the game. And, and I realize this is a much better Duke team, but, we just did not look like we were in for a fight at all.
Well, Duke has, two 4-star players. One of them's a transfer, and then you look at, 45 4- and 5-star players on Clemson. Talent should win there, but it didn't, and I think they found out real quick, you better not be complacent. There's no more margin for error on this football team this year because you're 0-1, and it's not division play in the ACC this year. It's straight up 14 teams. But what you mentioned, lost 3 of the last 4. Out of conference has treated Clemson a little rough. Last year losing to South Carolina and Tennessee in the bowl game, and sits that Ohio State game in the semifinals the year of COVID. Clemson's now 21-8 since then. And you know what? It makes you appreciate what you went through, because one thing I've always heard from players and coaches, it's one thing to get on top, it's another thing to stay there.
Yeah, it's tough. And and you hear people talk about the transfer portal and all this other stuff, and I'm not a big fan of the transfer portal, all that NIL stuff or anything, but if you had a team in the National Football League that just flat out said we're not going to be involved in free agency, I mean, I don't think that team would fare very well at all. And and we brought in a few guys, but the guys we brought in are Hunter Johnson, who didn't make a splash here, did make a splash at Northwestern. Paul Bryant's grandson, I don't know what his name. He wasn't starting anywhere.
Right. It's an emergency fill-in, and when Ohio State and you look at Nick Saban in Alabama, what they're doing in the transfer portal, and those are 2 teams that you have matched up against the last 8 years, 6 consecutive years in the playoffs, and you kind of got to do what Jimmy and John is doing at this point, or look at Florida State in a few weeks. They have completely rebuilt their football program through the transfer portal, and then went and just hammered a pretty good LSU team Sunday night. So that's going to be a huge contest of wills here in a few weeks about one coach built it this way and another coach did it that way, and that's when you may see a telltale sign.
Well, I just think, to me, you take the rules and you try to exploit the rules in every single way you can. I'd be out looking for players in the transfer portal. I'd be looking to recruit high school athletes. I would be looking all over the place for every available opportunity for talent. What happens, what's the beauty of the transfer portal is that you come in and, let's say, a quarterback or a wide receiver, and those are the kind of areas where you're going to see it most glaringly. You have a Mike Williams, you have a Sammy Watkins, you have a DeAndre Hopkins, you have Martavis Bryant, all these guys that were really phenomenal wide receivers. Well, you have you miss out on 2 or 3 guys in the wide receiver room, then you put yourself at a tremendous disadvantage. And so what I would be doing if I were a coach, a little bit different than Dabo, I would be trying to find 4 or 5 guys a year, find a wide receiver, but target those positions where you feel like, man, we're just not quite there in this position. You can bring a guy in, that freshman that you would be relying on, he can come in and run his 15, 20, 30 plays a game, get his game time in, start improving, making all of his improvements, keep him in the weight room, all the stuff you need to do to really develop him. And then after a year, he can come on and be a star. But you start having these gaps, and it is really hard to really throw a freshman or a sophomore that's not quite ready in there for the game, and he can't make the big plays.
It always comes back to NASCAR. If you ain't pushing the envelope in NASCAR, guess what? You're not going to be successful. I don't mean
you're
that.
getting passed.
Exactly. I don't really like the saying, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. But no, don't cheat. But I'd have one person on that staff. They've got 40 auxiliary members of the staff now. One guy just watching the transfer portal every single week.
You need 3 or 4 coaches to really, after the spring, after each fall, to do a deep dive evaluation of your team. Hey, Coach Sweeney, I think we're weak at this position. I think we're weak at this position. I think we're semi-questionable at this position. I think these other positions, we're good here, we're good here, we're good here. Okay, what do we need to do? Okay, let's try to find 1 or 2 guys at each one of those positions. Let's plug them in. Let's see if they can play.
Right.
And a lot of these guys, those guys at Florida State, those guys are producing. Whew. That one kid, Cam, from Michigan State, scored like 3 touchdowns.
Well, you go back and look, a couple of years ago, Alabama went and got Jamison Williams from Ohio State, of all people.
Right.
And then he ends up being a first-round draft pick. So I'm with you on that. Also, did you feel like what did you think of the play calling? That seems to be a huge source of contention that, went out and got Garrett Riley. Everybody thought this was going to be, so much more, and it felt very reminiscent of what we've seen the last 2 years.
Other than the only difference I really saw was a 2-back set where they had Maffa and Shipley together in the backfield, and they were doing some little cross, little motion and cross stuff over there to get in the counter tray play. But the pass game, I saw absolutely no difference between what had happened last year and this year. Klubnik, his yards per attempt was 4.8 yards. That's just dink and dunk football.
It's horizontal. It's not vertical in any way.
Yeah, you can stretch the field east. You can do by formation. You can stretch the field east and west from sideline to sideline. You can have guys split out, tight ends, and all that. The only way you're going to go vertical is stretch the field vertically. Is you've got to throw the ball downfield, and you've got to have some guys out there who are really fast, that those guys start going, wow, this guy here, he can leave me sitting in the dust, so I better back up a little bit. I watched that game against Duke. Every one of the Duke players is 10 yards or so from the line of scrimmage. So you say, well, what's the big deal about that? Well, if you got a guy that's 15 or 18 yards, he's 8 yards further away from making a tackle on Will Shipley. Will Shipley can get away from the first guy or 2, but he can't defend it. He can't outmaneuver 4 or 5 of them at the same time. So as they get closer and closer, it just makes it tougher on the running game. And what they're telling you is, we're not scared of your passing game at all.
Even if they, Clemson sort of known as wide receiver. You mentioned Sammy Watkins, and even all the way through Martavis Bryant. I'd still, in this day and age where they seem to throw a flag every other pass attempt downfield, I just, let them either A, go make a play, or B, get interfered with. I watched one game on Saturday, I forget which it was, 3 consecutive pass interference penalties in a row, and they're 45 yards down the field. So, the 50-50 ball was always really huge with Mike Williams, but take a chance and see what happens.
Yeah, it was a 70-10-30, 70-30-10-20 thing with him, because he was going to get it 70% of the time. The other guy might get it 5 or 10% of the time, and then it may be incomplete the other 20. So the percentages were with you, but we just don't seem to have a guy that, is a big enough guy that really is that, and I used to call Dwight Clark one of my old teammates, a great San Francisco 49er. I used to tell him, I said, you're out here playing basketball. You're running down the field, you're screening the guy off like you're blocking him out for a rebound.
Exactly.
And then you're jumping up and catching the ball. And he did it all the time. And, he was physical. He didn't mind having contact, but, he had great hands, and he was going to sit there and wall you off. And Joe Montana was so accurate, just right there.
Yep, knew
First
where they were
down.
going to be. Speaking of where you're at, we're here at Lakeside Lodge in Clemson. Restaurant Traditions on the Lakes, and they're full. We got a great band coming up. When we're done, the away team play a whole lot of different things, and of course, you'll find out more about Lakeside Lodge as we go through the show, but I want to take a moment and thank Cliff over here. Yes, he does our streaming and our camera work, but now he's the master, the webmaster, if you will. So our new website at straightupsports.net, we got some great writers, Bob Gillespie, the Hall of Famer, Willie Smith, Furman coverage by yours truly. I will be in Williams-Brice tomorrow night. Not my favorite place to go, but tell you what, Furman will have a shot tomorrow night. I'm convinced of that. And then we will be getting a post-game wrap-up from the press box from Will Vandervoort. Things kind of got sidetracked on Monday night. We never thought that it was going to happen. I said, Will, don't worry about a post-game wrap-up, because they had a lot of questions they were asking in the media. But again, Leighton Cubbage, David Slevin, and Shane Bounds are all here at Lakeside Lodge to take care of you, and you can find out everything you need to know at lakesidelodgeclemson.com. But we're going to get out for a second. We'll come back. We'll take a look around the ACC, a couple of games in the top 25, and then in the final segment, we'll take a look more at Clemson. Also, a few things on Charleston Southern University as well, as they come into tomorrow's matchup in Death Valley with a 1-0 record. They squeaked by North Greenville University a week ago last night, 13-10. It's a Charleston Southern team that has never won against the FBS team, lost all 23 games. Last year they went to NC State and got beat 55-3. So I think this is the right team at the right time, and that's the only way Clemson will agree to that Monday night game, is if they have a FCS opponent the following week. But again, Joe Bostic, Mark Sturgis, we're live here at Lakeside Lodge, and we'll be right back in a couple of minutes.
More than football.
Let's all come together to be a bridge builder through this great game to change the lives of the people in the state of South Carolina.
Together, we can be a voice to help educate, encourage, and empower excellence in our youth and community.
Join the movement and help support all that the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame is doing to embrace this mission of celebrating, recognizing, and encouraging excellence.
I'm here at one of my favorite places in Greenville. That's Tip It Back Sports Grill, 215 Pelham Road, here in the Commons at Pelham. And listen, there's a lot going on at Tip It Back here during the week. First of all, there's happy hour, Monday through Friday, 3 to 7 p.m. There's great food. They're open at noon for lunch. But Mondays, you can enjoy live trivia at 7 p.m., then Monday Night Football. On Thursdays, it's football and then karaoke. On Friday night, some of the best live entertainment in the upstate. And then Saturday, it's football all day and finishes off with karaoke. And then Sunday, it's NFL football. And if you're a Steelers fan, this is your spot. It's a home for the Steelers. They're on the broadcast here in the bar all day long. That's Tip It Back Sports Grill. Check them out. It'll be your home for college football. Just like the Bostics are legends, so is Wedgie's Pizza here in Greenville. When you've been in business for 34 years, you can make that claim. You know, pizza and football go together, and it's not just about the pies here at Wedgie's. There's fantastic cheesesteaks and other subs, plus a lasagna, chicken tenders, and a whole lot more. Now, you can find the entire menu at wedgiesonline.com or simply give the store a call, 292-3410. That's legendary. That's Wedgie's Pizza here in Greenville. All right, welcome back into Lakeside Lodge. Again, here with Joe Bostic and getting you ready for tomorrow's Charleston Southern game. But, you know, opening week was this past weekend, and outside of Duke and Clemson, there was some good success with the ACC, a couple of nice wins over Southeastern Conference teams. You know, North Carolina looks like they're a little bit more physical than they've been in the past with Mac Brown. And not only that now you got an upset Mac Brown as of earlier today. I've never seen a coach just go off on the NCAA the way he did. And they've got a huge game tomorrow. North Carolina has App State coming in. And, you know, remember last year it was, 55, 54, or something along those lines. But, Joe, have you ever kicked off a football game at 11 a.m. in the morning? I know every home game you played at Clemson was a 1 o'clock kickoff back in the day.
Yeah, we used to play games at 12 when I was with the Cardinals, and which would have been a 1 o'clock, you know, Eastern time. So that was my earliest performance. We played in England. I don't know we played at night. I mean, it was.
You didn't know what time it was?
Yeah, I mean, it felt like I was like 3 days jet lag, you know, everything. It was just awful. And, yeah, but 11 o'clock would be a little tough. And plus the guys in Vandy.
Was 10 o'clock for them.
Yeah, it's the central time zone they're in, so it's even worse for Vandy. So.
Yeah, Vanderbilt and Wake Forest kicking off at 11 a.m. up in Winston-Salem tomorrow. Vanderbilt 2-0 on the year. Wake Forest 1-0. You got 4 different games going on at noon tomorrow, which includes Halfway at Boston College. That seat might be starting to warm up a little bit as they fell last week in overtime to a team they shouldn't have. And then you look at, you know, they had Phil Jerkovic. He's now playing for another ACC team. So
right.
Things don't seem to be going very well there in Boston. But I'm looking forward to number 10 Notre Dame, 2-0 at NC State at noon. Now, I took NC State on the podcast a few weeks ago. It's my surprise team in the league. I don't really, you know, they lost Devin Leary to the University of Kentucky, but one thing you usually get from NC State's good work on both sides of the line, and that can do things for you. Notre Dame, everybody's wanting to put them into another stratosphere because they beat a really bad Navy team over in Dublin, and then last week they won 56-3 over Tennessee State, an HBCU. I want to see Notre Dame play somebody. Granted, Hartman looks fantastic. Obviously, top 10 for the Heisman right now. But again, I don't think Notre Dame's played anybody. We'll find out more about the Fighting Irish tomorrow.
It's hard to say, but yeah, I'm looking forward to NC State. Robert and I, the offensive coordinator at Virginia, and then he went to Syracuse. Now he's at State, but he was the offensive coordinator for, I can't think of the kid's name that's playing quarterback at NC State now. He was at Virginia last year. So I think that reunion will help NC State and help the QB. And so I think that should be a very competitive game.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You mentioned Virginia. I think it was a win last week just getting them back on the football field. But then again, Tennessee absolutely just hammered them over in Nashville. Now they got James Madison. You know, the Dukes have won multiple national titles at the FCS level. They're making the transition to FBS. Boy, it'd be an ugly start for Tony Elliott if they let James Madison come into Charlottesville tomorrow and get a win.
Tony, he's inherited some very unfortunate stuff with the killing and the murders and all that. And, you know, I know he's a good man and pray for him and hope things go well for Virginia, but boy, it doesn't look real positive right now.
No. Also, Purdue 0-1. They're at Virginia Tech at noon, and I watched a little bit of Virginia Tech's game Saturday night, and it was nice to see some emotion back in Lane Stadium. Now, I would challenge 80% of our listeners don't know who Virginia Tech's head coach is. Do you?
Yeah, Brent Pry.
Right, exactly. But I was so underwhelmed by that hire a couple of years ago. But Lane Stadium, man, it was rocking Saturday night, and they showed a really cool entrance of them coming in with Enter Sandman. And
Yeah, they looked reinvigorated
Right.
to me. And Purdue, something doesn't seem to be going well there right now.
Well,
but
they got a first-year head coach after Jeff Brom takes off from Purdue and goes back to his alma mater in Louisville, who won 56-0 last night over Murray State to go to 2-0. At 3:30, you got Texas A&M at Miami.
that's going to be a good game.
Yep, I keep waiting to see what the blow-up's going to be between Jimbo Fisher and Bobby Petrino at some point. You know what I mean? So both of them have egos, to say
Oh,
the
yeah,
least.
absolutely.
So if they manage to get that all the way through the season without blowing up on each other, I think that would be impressive. But again, Miami, we were down in Florida a few weeks ago, or last month, at the Mayo Clinic, and Miami fans are getting a little bit more positive, but we shall see. I just think it's such a mess down there with that stadium being an hour away from campus. If Dan Radakovich does what he's always done, they'll figure a way to get a 40,000-seat stadium somewhere in Coral Gables. 3:30, Western Michigan 1-0 at Syracuse. Dino Babers got off to a fast start last weekend. And then I mentioned this one, 5:15, App State at number 17, North Carolina. And I was Drake May, who might be one of the top 3 Heisman contenders at this point, got off to a really nice start against South Carolina, and then made a couple of boneheaded plays, just like he did in the ACC championship game. And South Carolina could have gotten back into that game, but could not score in the red zone. Imagine that.
Yep. Must be a plague of South Carolina or something. State of South Carolina got the red zone fever or something. I don't know.
I don't know if you don't do a whole lot of Twitter, but our friend Ryan McGee with ESPN, whose dad used to be an official back in the day, Ryan went to Travelers Rest High School before going to the University of Tennessee. He might have had the funniest tweet of the weekend. It listed out Clemson L, USC L, Coastal Carolina L, Erskine L. I think Furman was maybe the one team that won. Said state of South Carolina hadn't been treated this rudely since General Sherman marched through the state.
It was not a good week.
Yep. Speaking of Duke, they host Lafayette at 6 p.m. Then a sneaky kind of quiet game, 6:30, Cincinnati at Pitt. Luke Fickell left to go to Wisconsin, which I think that was maybe the best hire of the offseason.
Yeah.
Interested, Cincinnati won their first game. Pitt and Narduzzi, they just always seem to be there. Nobody talks about them a whole lot, but they're always there at the end of the
Pitt
season.
is one of the toughest-minded teams. They just seem to always just be a tough, gritty, hard-nosed team. And, you look at Narduzzi, he's got that written all over his face. I guarantee you, he grew up rough. He grew up in, and he's a tough guy.
He is, and I think he fits Pittsburgh's identity.
Oh, yeah.
The Steel City, hardworking, that kind of thing. And then the final game's a little bit late, 8:30, Southern Miss at number 4, Florida State. And I'd pray for a Brett Favre moment right now. Do you know? Remember when Southern Miss went into the Gator Bowl back in the day and upset Florida State? I think it was Peter Tom Willis was the quarterback. But, Brett Favre, that's kind of when he exploded out on the national scene. Furman at South Carolina at 7:30 tomorrow night. Couple of games in the top 25. The Ohio State fans were not happy with their performance last weekend. They won 23-3, and that's the main thing. They got the W. But if Indiana had any semblance of an offense, that game would have been 17-17 midway through the fourth quarter. So I think Ohio State's got some issues they need to work out.
Well, anytime you change quarterbacks,
Yep.
it's just you roll the dice, and it's like Clemson here. We Deshaun Watson, then we had
Trevor Lawrence.
No, the kid number 2.
Kelly Bryant.
Kelly Bryant, and then you have Trevor Lawrence. I mean, you just end up with some real aces there, and when you got a real top-notch quarterback, things go better.
Speaking of top-notch quarterbacks, the team that has been crowned here now, number 22. What do you think of Deion Sanders in Colorado? Because again, if that doesn't typify what is going on in football today, I don't know what is. Because 65 new players in that roster from last year. They were 1-11. I don't blame him for wanting to get rid of them, but they win last week. Now everybody's got their eyes on Colorado.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing we said about the transfer portal here. I mean, have somebody analyze your team, look at your team from top to bottom, and I'm sure they went back and said, hey, you need 4 wide receivers, you need 4 offensive linemen, you need 4 defensive linemen, you need 4 linebackers, you need, a whole plethora of new people. And so Deion said, okay, you guys, y'all go play somewhere else, and we're going to bring some other guys in. We may hit on a few. We may not hit on a few, but, we already know what the guys that were here last year can do. And you can only do, you can coach them up or whatever, but, you're not going to go from 1-10 to 10-1. So I appreciate what he's doing. In Deion, he was playing when I was playing toward the end of my career. And, he was just a cocky, kind of mouthy guy. But, he puts the work in. And he makes it happen.
Well, I think he's the one kind of person that could look across to the media members who are very stiff and go, I did it. And guess what? We're going to continue to do it. And I don't really care what you think. And all of a sudden, they got a chance to go 2-0 with a win over Nebraska. Matt Rule loses his first game with the Cornhuskers on a field goal on the last play of the game.
That was a sad loss. They really had control of that game. And, and I'm pretty indifferent about Deion Sanders because, he ran his, he talked a lot as a player, and I didn't really appreciate that. But, the guy has got a plan. He had a plan when he was playing. He has a plan as a coach. And, he sticks with that plan. He's not asking for any quarter, and he ain't giving any quarter. He goes out there and, hey, we'll play your place, our place, or in a parking lot somewhere. And, if the guy comes out and he's on top and he's changed the culture and changed the whole attitude in the Colorado football program, then that's great. I mean, 30 years ago, these guys are winning national championships.
Yep.
And, so it's not impossible. Colorado can have big-time football.
Yeah, Boulder is an awesome place. But, again, Matt Rule needs a win here. Maybe they'll knock off Colorado.
Well, he's going to win.
Yeah. 2 last games. I think the sneaky good game of the weekend is Ole Miss at Tulane.
Oh, Tulane. I don't know what they've got back from last year, but I watched them play Southern Cal last year. And, I mean, that whole entire team, they got behind by 7-10 points. And I'm going to tell you, they were the most relentless team that just kept coming. And, you could just see Southern Cal kind of wilt, and those kids just kept charging. I was really impressed with their team.
And Willie Fritz, such a good head coach. I'm really surprised he stayed at Tulane after that success. But, people don't remember he had some good time at Georgia Southern before he took that Tulane job, and he's just a very good coach. Final game, I'm sorry, it's got to come up. Number 11, Texas at Alabama, number 3. Remember, that was a really good game last year. And
Quinn Ewers, he got hurt, and so he couldn't finish the game. The whole big question is this, after 14 years in a row, that this is the year for Texas to be here? Is this going to be the year? And, it just seems like they've just been over and over and over. Oh, this is going to be the year. Well, no, okay. Next year. Oh, this is going to be the year. And they just never quite can ever get over the threshold. Now, if they go to Alabama and beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa, then I would say Texas football's back.
Right.
But they've got to do some proving. I mean, it's all been talked for a long time, and now it's time to get on with it and make the move.
Well, Nick Saban caught a lot of grief because he really wouldn't put out his roster, starting lineup heading into that game, and a lot of it had to do with quarterback. Well, all Justin Milroe does is throw 3 touchdown passes, run for 2 more. Never been done in Alabama history. Yeah, it was Rick Stockstill's Middle Tennessee State team that was in a bowl game last year.
Right.
So it wasn't like they were playing FCS competition.
Well, that man, he knows he knows football. He knows individuals. He knows temperament. And I'm gonna defer to him. If he doesn't want to name his starting lineup, then he's got every right to do that.
So what did you think through one weekend of the new clock changes in college football? Because it really felt like it was hit and miss with the coaches. Late Saturday night, Coastal Carolina was playing at UCLA, and Chip Kelly, going off the halftime, goes, "These new rules suck. We only had the ball 4 times in the first half." That takes away from feeling somebody out earlier in the game. You better put the pedal to the metal right off the bat.
Get on with it, yeah. Basically, these are the rules that you play with under NFL football. You don't stop the clock on first downs and all that stuff. So, it is what it is. If they tell you, if you wake up next week and they say we're going to play 8 quarters,
right,
15-minute quarters, play eight quarters. They tell you you're going to play 2 quarters. Okay, we're going to play 2 quarters. Just you've got to adapt to what, and if you're Chip Kelly and you don't like the new rules, well, that's your problem.
Yeah,
you get in another game. Go play in the Canadian League.
The other thing it's going to do, you better not get too far behind.
Yeah,
because you won't have as many possessions to play catch up.
It's 3 or 4 plays less per side, for the first half than second half. So, it is what it is. I don't really care. But the NCAA, just like the NFL, they're trying to do as much as they can to minimize, like kickoff, punt returns of people running 20 yards and smacking into somebody full speed. They're trying to lower the number of plays and in hopes that because that's 3 or 4 less licks per guy. And who knows, is it the 1,000th lick that gets you? Is it the 10,000th lick that gets you?
Yeah.
Is it the 40,000th lick that gets you? It's just, you just need to, try to do all we can to perfect the equipment and also cut down on some of the hitting.
Yeah, you think about football, and I love to go back and watch some of the old history things. One of the reasons that football became so big in the South back in, when the game first kind of started was, the parents thought that it'd be a good way to toughen up the kids since, what happened in the Civil War here in the South. And I don't think they ever thought about there would be a cut 370-pound offensive lineman in 2022. I don't think the game was really designed for players that big to go hit each other, but just like everything else in life, it gets bigger and bigger as it goes on.
Yeah, and I don't think the equipment's been able to keep up with the size and all that. When we came around in the 70s, guys, I was 270. I was a big guy. And, most of the guys that we were playing against were 240, 250. You'd have some 275, 280s, but, wasn't that prevalent. You never heard of a 300-pound guy. And I remember back then people saying, well, how big a guy's going to get? And I said, I don't know, maybe 280, 290, and they've totally surpassed my thoughts.
I go back to William Perry. When he showed up here in 1980, 81, he's 300 pounds. You never heard about that before.
No.
You hear William Devane talk about, that's a pretty big guy. And then he showed up.
Yeah.
And
and he was 300 pounds or 310. He was dunking a basketball, and he was 6'2".
And doing double flips off a board.
Yeah, off a board, and he was running a 4.8 or 4.9 40. Everybody thought, oh, my goodness, this is unbelievable. Now there's guys that, his size are bigger. They're, the same kind of speed, athletic ability. It's incredible.
Yeah, I think San Jose State had a 6'7", 360-pound offensive lineman. I was just like, I'd be running behind him all game unless he looks like Tarzan and plays like Jane.
Yeah.
All right, a couple things to get with you before we get out. Don't forget, Monday nights at Tip It Back, we have straight-up trivia. 4 rounds now. We'll have to get through pretty quickly Monday night because Tip It Back Sports Grill is kind of the home for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they will be on Monday Night Football next week. But you can come up to Tip It Back and check out me.
You don't want to get in the way of a Steeler fan when the Steelers are playing. Those guys will run over you.
Black and gold, no doubt. But also on Friday nights at Tip It Back, you can catch some of the best live bands in the upstate. Cliff surely knows about that. And on the weekend, you can't turn your head without seeing a television. Football, Braves, whatever. It's just a great place to be. And want to wish Tim and his mom, speaking of from Pittsburgh, battling leukemia right now. So, Mom, hope you're doing well. In the meantime, we'll come back in a couple of minutes. We'll look at the Charleston Southern Clemson game. Charleston Southern 1-0 after beating North Greenville last Thursday night. And again, we'll be right back to Lakeside Lodge. Hey guys, it's football season. It's officially kicked off, and we want to take a moment and invite you to check out our new website. It's straightupsports.net. What do we have on the homepage? I've taken time to put some links to the week's best articles. Also, we've got a Clemson page, a Furman page, and I have a links page. I've got every college sports program in the upstate linked on one page. Plus, you can find our 2 shows. That's Straight Up with Sturg and the Bostic brothers down in Clemson the night before every Clemson football game, and Straight Up from Smoke. Price Atkinson and I are getting back together every week at Smoke on the Water. Check it out, straightupsports.net.
My name is Shania Gullidge, and I work here at Traditions on the Lake. One of the things that I definitely think makes this place so special is the warm and welcoming environment. There is nothing on the menu that I do not like, and I'm typically a super picky eater, but there is literally not one thing that I wouldn't recommend. I think Traditions is definitely a perfect spot for a family. It is the perfect environment to bring your kids, very warm and inviting. It's just a very beautiful environment all around.
Kirk Fisher is a motorcycle attorney with first responder experience. He protects fellow riders and those in danger, fighting fires and fighting for your rights. Experienced, determined, and dedicated. Iron Horse Motorcycle Lawyers. Look for motorcycles, or Kirk Fisher will be looking for you.
All right, welcome back in. Lakeside Lodge here in Clemson. Don't forget Traditions on the Lake. Great workout room. They also got the ballroom. Joe, are you going to go in there and see the Clemson women's rowing team before you leave here?
I guess so.
I tell you what, they have some tall girls, kind of like volleyball.
Row your boat.
boat.
Come on, let's go. And also, you know, we're going to Tuesdays, I think my wife told me. We're going to start coming down here, all you can eat crab
legs. Oh, yeah.
So, you know, mark that down if you're having a hankering for all you can eat crab legs on a Tuesday.
Just be nice about it. You know, when I lived in Knoxville back in the day, there was a place called Rick's Place, and they'd have dime wing night. And the football players would show up with like $3 in change, order 30 wings, not tip the waitress, and then get on out of there. And he's like, I love having them in here, but I hate those football players.
Yeah, a bunch of cheap steaks.
Exactly. Of course, they didn't have the NIL thing back then.
Well, they probably wouldn't tip anyway.
Yeah.
They would eat 50 wings and wouldn't tip.
Charleston Southern tomorrow. Again, as we mentioned in the first segment, good matchup to get right. You know, you're coming off a short week. What do you want to see tomorrow from this football team?
That's what I want to see: domination. I want to see nastiness. I want to see just, attention to detail. I mean, I want to see an angry team. I'll never forget we lost to Georgia in 1978, and I brought this up about every year we've ever played. Done the show, but we lose 12-0. There's 6 guys on that offense of our team that played at least 8 years in the National Football League, and what that tells me is that we had guys we just weren't prepared. We played hard, just like Clemson did last week. Those guys played hard. I think they gave effort, but they just weren't sharp. I watch. I never had any inkling that Cade Klubnik was as fast as he is. Because he doesn't seem to run the ball that fast. But man, he took off after that DB. And he walked him down.
And that was an effort play. And
Yes.
that's one I can live with. You made a mistake, but you came back with the effort.
But that kid, man, he is fast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's running down DBs, and I guarantee you, Duke, they don't have 5 flat guys back there playing DB. I mean, that guy, I don't know how fast he is, but he ain't as fast as Cade Klubnik, I can tell you that.
They had 2 transfers in that defensive backfield. One that came in from Texas A&M, where Mike Elko
Yep.
was defensive
and
coordinator.
Benny Blades.
We were kind of like, aren't the Blades family the first family in Miami Hurricane football, and one transfers out in the league to Duke?
Yeah.
I mean,
Benny Blades was a heck of a player back in the day. So
you didn't want to mess with that Blades family back then. All right, when you look at Charleston Southern, they got a 13-10 win over North Greenville, and they had to score a touchdown with about 7 minutes left to do it. Here's what you're going to see on offense tomorrow. They have a quarterback by the name of Tony Bartello. He only threw for 95 yards in the opener. They have a wide receiver by the name of Jaden Scott. He led the team in receptions in the opener with 2. But the one place that they've got some talent is at running back. They have a kid from Abbeville, so he wants to come up here and show out in front of family and friends. His name is J.D. Moore. He had 17 rushes for 105 yards against North Greenville. And, again, they get off the snide. It's a Charleston Southern team that has a first-year head coach. Last year it was Autry Dennison, who played at Northwestern and then played in the pros for a little bit. But Charleston Southern went out and did one of the best hires, They didn't go get a secondary coach from a big program. They went out and got a former Alabama walk-on. I wonder who's going to be on the other side of the field. His name is Gabe Giardina. Again, he was a Bama walk-on. He had a 5-year run at Albany State, which is in HBCU, and he's a white head coach. He won like 70 games in his 5 years at Albany State. So I'm sorry, if you can coach, you can coach.
Right.
And that was a heck of a move by Charleston Southern. I did a little bit of background check. Charleston Southern was started in 1964 as Baptist College. So now they're Charleston Southern. They're in the Big South Conference, and again, great. My niece graduated in the nursing program there, so it's a nice little school, but it's a nice little team for Clemson to get healthy on tomorrow. 2:15 in the Valley.
Right. Yeah, it's a money game. I'm sure they're making a nice little.
Only $400,000, but trust me, for Charleston Southern, $400,000 is
$400,000
a lot of money. Yeah.
And I'm sure that Gabe, our friend Gabe, the Alabama man,
Giardina.
I'm sure he's a great coach and all that. Clemson just needs to worry about Clemson.
Yeah.
Just do the stuff you need to do. Execute, perform. Play with an attitude. I want to see this defense. You hear about all this great stuff. And also I want to see. Garrett Riley unleashed. Because my worry is because I can't imagine a guy like Garrett Riley and his brother Lincoln Riley having that game plan that we saw last week, where he run and throw all these little 2 and 3 yard passes. I don't know if Dabo's overruling him or giving him free reign or not. I don't know what's going on, because that offense, other than, like I said, the two-back runs that Shipley and Maffa and Klubnik were doing, was the only change I saw. And I mean, I've seen so many bubble screens and all this stuff. I mean, throw the ball downfield. Get these guys fearful of your wide receivers. You know, spread this field out. Spread it out horizontally. Spread it out from side to side.
Well, you can't hit a long pass unless you try one.
Right.
And, you know, so, again, make them be thinking. Make those linebackers hedge for a moment. The other thing that bothered me from the Clemson perspective was it was Barrett Carter after the game going, you know what? I realized I wasn't in very good game shape. I hate to hear that after fall camp, but you know, what you went through in August in 1978 is completely different what these kids are going through in 2023. They don't hit that much. Y'all probably had 2-a-days, if not 3-a-days.
Oh, we had 3-a-days.
Right. You can't do that in today's day and age, and that's why you don't see as good a tackling and that kind of thing, technique, because they don't do it during practice.
Yeah, see, I'm in total agreement that you don't need guys practicing like we practiced. But the one thing you can do, you can be in shape.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've never heard of a guy getting a concussion from running too much, or, you know, or getting a concussion or having some kind of dizziness because he's lifting weights too much. I mean, it's inexcusable to me to not be in shape physically, you know, strength-wise and also endurance-wise. I mean, I just do not see. And yeah, it's been the hottest summer I've ever seen, and I'm thankful as all get out that I'm not playing nowadays, because it would be rough on, you know, it'd be rough. But
you'd be 230.
Yeah, but but not being in shape to me is inexcusable.
Right. And number two, if you feel that way, that's one you might want to keep to yourself and not let it get out into the media.
You know, the things we
into
used
the
to say
public.
back in the day, you know, we had Danny Ford coaching us, and he may not mix very well with the way practices and things go on today, but the games were a day off for us.
Yeah.
That was the easiest day we had in the whole week.
And that's one thing I want to impress on Clemson fans tomorrow. Yes, it's been a long time since you started 0-1, but you only get 7 of these Saturdays a year. You wait 9 months for it. Don't let one game turn you off in the fact to come down here, enjoy yourself, a celebration and whatnot. Just come enjoy the day, get behind these guys. And the main thing I want to do, like I said, I want to see them have fun, because what was it? You know, the fun's in winning.
Yes.
And but again, go out there relaxed, talk a little bit if you need to. I just want to see them have fun. The other thing I want to see is a damn kick go through the goalpost.
Yep.
All right. He has Coach Sweeney opened up the place kicking job this week. Robert Gunn, a freshman, actually won the job in preseason, but he kicked 2 on Monday night. I could have blocked. And I think my vertical leap's like 4.2 inches.
Yeah. Yeah, that, I don't know if it's jitters or what it is with him. I don't know if the guy's a nervous guy or what it is, but, you know, just keep it simple. You know, the guy's going to put the ball down exactly at the spot. There's a place that you're going to kick that ball. That's where your foot's going to go. And quit worrying about it, because once it leaves your foot, you have no more control over it. Just make sure you hit it at the right spot and that your foot works good, you know, and leave the results up to, you know, the wind and whatever else. But don't psych yourself out, or don't allow the moment to get too big. Just say, hey, I'm kicking a field goal. There's nobody here. I'm going to hit it in this little spot right here. That's where my foot's going to go, and I'm going to be very precise in my footwork. And everything, and the results will be fine.
Well, the other thing that scared me when he walked out there the first time, he looked like he was 13 years old, this little thing. I mean, we are starting to get older where they look younger than they used to. He was a small little thing, but again, confidence. It's like hitting a golf ball. It's much easier to hit the golf ball when you have confidence, and I think it's the same thing when it comes to place kicking. But, again, that's the main thing for tomorrow. This week's trivia question, I want you to see if you knew it. What year did Death Valley earn the moniker, or excuse me, what year did Memorial Stadium earn the moniker Death Valley?
Wow. I don't know. I would say it would be sometime in the 40s, and there was a guy from Presbyterian. I can't remember the coach's name, but he said that going down to Clemson was like a death sentence.
Yep.
And so fill me in on what the.
Is that 1948? And it was the PC coach going there's like going to Death Valley and all that. The other trivia. What two animals are on the Clemson ring? That's one thing I love about Clemson University is that traditional graduation ring. Where I went to school at Alabama, you were more inclined to get your fraternity ring than you were a University of Alabama ring. But
Right.
there are two animals on the traditional Clemson graduation
Well, it's got to be a
ring.
tiger
Yep.
and wow,
And an eagle.
an eagle.
Yeah, actually eagles. So,
Man.
so a couple things,
So in high school, I was a Ben L. Smith Eagle, and now in college, I was a Clemson Tiger.
Good.
So I had both of them tied down.
That you
pretty good.
did. So again, 2:15 tomorrow
I
in
can't
the Valley.
drag in the Cardinal thing. I don't know where the Cardinal comes in.
I actually this summer met somebody who's like lived in St. Louis when you played, and he's like, "Oh, I was a big Joe Bostic fan back in the day. I almost like called you on the telephone, had you speak to him." But anyway, it's always a pleasure. It's so good to see you. It's so good to bring some common sense to a sea of negativity right now after one loss. Get a chance to rectify that tomorrow. And the main thing is just go out there and play hard.
I know the coaches, Dabo, they get all disappointed. They said, some people are ready to quit on us and all that. But that's not what's going to happen here. I know whenever we're not playing well, it's a burden, and you don't like it one bit. But I'll tell you what, the beauty of this whole thing at Clemson is that people are passionate about it. I mean, you can go to places like Boston College or wherever where people don't really care one way or the other.
Yes.
So, man, count your blessings that you're at a place that is important. Football is important. And people are going to, they live and die by football. And, that's Sunday morning paper gets read. And, man, everybody's trying to figure out why we did so good or why we did so bad. And let's just get this thing back on track, get it going. There's still a ton of games to play.
There's a long way to go.
Yeah,
I mean, listen, you can't write Kansas City out of the Super Bowl based on a 1-point loss
no.
last night. So they're going to continue to play and try to win another. But Joe, always great to see
Yeah,
you.
we said, like I said, in '78, we're 1-1. We beat Citadel and lose to Georgia. Well, we went down that practice field right back over here, and I mean, it was dead serious. And I'll never forget, I was in the car driving back to Malden Hall and Schletter, and I told some of the guys who were in the car with me, I said, we won't lose another game this year. And we didn't lose another game. We won 10 more in a row and ended up 6th in the country.
Yep.
So that can happen here. But it's going to take some guys that got out that practice field and got back in that car and said, we're not going to lose any more games because I can feel this anger by my teammates. These guys are going to get serious about their trade, and that's the way it happens. And guys get hyper focused. They're like, what? By God, I don't like the way I felt after that Duke game. I'm not going to let it happen anymore.
All right. So next Friday night, we'll be right back here at Lakeside Lodge getting you ready for Florida Atlantic. And we will have the Eric Weiler Group performing next Friday night. A lot of good rock and blues, that kind of stuff. Really good band. And, matter of fact, outstanding lineup of bands. The following, let's see, on the 29th, our friend Dave Landio's coming in from Charleston, his band on the 22nd. We got a band coming in from Atlanta on the 29th.
Man, you got connections.
So
with
we've
all
opened
these,
this thing up a little bit
you
this
got
year.
connections with all these music guys. I'll tell you.
It's real easy. If you pay, they'll contact you. You know what I mean? Hey, so no, trust me. It's
not many freebies.
no. They get paid here a little bit more than they do at a normal place. So
Yeah.
no, they're like starting about June. I start getting phone calls.
Well, I'm sure there's some Tiger fans that really that really enjoy that over here because this is just a wonderful,
Yes.
wonderful place here and very well thought out. And I tell you, it's just, it's always just it feels like home when we come
Yeah,
here.
and the food is Traditions on the Lake. The food is absolutely fantastic. And the other thing, it's got the menu's like nowhere else. It's got a lot of different things on it that you are not going to catch.
You know, and you
anywhere
go
else.
in that restaurant's so set up in a way that you can have 10, 15 individual conversations going on that you're not overhearing everybody else around you. It's such a comfortable place to be, and just hang out with your friends. And you know, you got Clemson fans. I mean, the greatest fans in the world, especially for football.
Yep.
And we're gonna get this friggin' thing turned around tomorrow and get on a winning streak and see what happens.
All right, one of the things that you might want to get there a little bit early for is to check out the new Tiger Walk tomorrow. You know, they spent a lot of time fixing up the West End Zone parking lot, and, you know, go look for all the names of the captains. Are you down there?
My son asked me, he said, we got all these guys that are on this list, all these guys, boom, 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 boom. And he said, Dad, are you on that list? And I said, no. And he said, well, why not? I said, we had Steve Fuller, we had Randy Scott. They were our permanent captains every game. Steve on offense, Randy Scott on defense, 1977 and 1978. So you're going to have 50 guys coming like in a 8-year span. You're going to have 2 guys that are going to be there for a 2-year span. And I said, Dabo names a new captain every week. We had a permanent captains.
Well, I remember your fellow player Spiros.
Jim Spiros.
Spiros from Maryland.
Right.
Y'all let him in that game up at College Park walk out the midfield as the captain. Of course, y'all were all right behind him, but
they would always have a special
Right.
teams captain, but we always had an offense and defense. So, yeah, they let him go at so there'll be some of those guys that'll get recognized that didn't play a whole lot. And Steve Godfrey was in my junior year. He was the permanent special teams captain, and probably Jeff Sewell would have been our senior year. So Charlie Pell wasn't into all that naming captains every week.
Well, you are the captain. We got the master. Always want to thank our good friend Cliff Weatherspoon, Red Arrow Media. He takes care of us. Also, Hall of Fame Sports Grill is the sponsor for the South Carolina page on the website. I'm sorry, we're actually having South Carolina on it.
Oh, wow.
And Iron Horse Motorcycle Lawyers is a sponsor for Furman.
That
and
South
me.
Carolina money spends like Clemson.
Yeah,
money,
it's
so.
green as anybody else's. So, again, always good to see you. We'll be back here Friday night. And in the meantime,
Let's just pull for those Tigers and let's get them over the finish line, an impressive win. And we're going to start a little string here, and I think we're going to be all right by the end of the season. Go Tigers.
we'll see you next week. Have a good one.